Would you betray your best friend if it meant saving yourself from a massive debt? What if your friendship was put on trial through psychological torture disguised as a game? Today, we're talking about one of the most underrated psychological manga ever created, Tomodachi Game. Because in this story, friendship isn't power, it's currency. And trust me, this manga gets dark very fast. Tomodachi Game is a psychological thriller that blends strategy, manipulation, and betrayal in a way that constantly keeps readers on edge. At first glance, it looks like another survival game story. But this isn't about physical strength. It's about mental warfare. One of the most interesting comparisons you can make is between Tomodachi Game and Death Note. Yuichi Katajiri, the protagonist of this manga, and Light Yagami share many similarities. Both are incredibly intelligent, highly strategic, and morally ambiguous. They don't simply react to situations, they take control of them. But the big contrast is, Death Note feels global. It's about reshaping society. Tomodachi Game feels personal. It's about breaking relationships. And in some ways that makes it even more uncomfortable. Because while most of us will never hold a Death Note, we might one day face a situation where trust, money, and pressure test our closest friendships. The series slowly dismantles the idea that friendship is unbreakable, and it does it brutally. The story follows Yuichi Katagiri, a high school student who claims to value friendship above everything else. He and his 4 close friends save money for a school trip, but suddenly, the money disappears. Soon after, they're abducted and forced into something called the Tomodachi Game. They're told one of them is responsible for a huge debt, and now all 5 must participate in a series of psychological games to pay it off. If they cooperate, the debt shrinks. If they betray each other, someone pays the price. When you first start reading, you think it's just a cool setup for a story, but nothing, absolutely nothing, prepares you for the emotional and psychological chaos this story is about to unleash. At first, Yuichi appears kind, loyal, selfless. But as the games progress, we begin to see cracks. Yuichi isn't just intelligent. He's manipulative, cold, strategic, and sometimes terrifying. Unlike many protagonists, he doesn't just react, he controls. He studies people's weaknesses. He weaponizes emotions. What makes him fascinating is this: you're never completely sure whether he's protecting his friends or using them. Each game targets a different human weakness: trust, greed, guilt, fear, jealousy. And the brilliance of the story lies here. The rules are simple, but the psychological consequences are devastating. The tension doesn't come from action scenes. It comes from suspicion, from paranoia, from watching friendships slowly collapse under pressure. Tomodachi Game asks uncomfortable questions. Do you truly know your friends? Would you sacrifice yourself for them? Or would you secretly choose survival? The manga explores how money can distort morality, how pressure reveals true personalities, and how sometimes the nicest person in the room might be the most dangerous. What makes Tomodachi Game truly disturbing isn't the debt, or even the games themselves. It's how realistic the psychology feels. In real life, most friendships are never tested under extreme pressure, but introduce money, competition, status, or survival into the equation, and things change. We see this in society all the time. Work environments where colleagues pretend to cooperate but secretly compete. Friend groups that fall apart because of financial disagreements. Families divided over inheritance. even online spaces where public image matters more than loyalty. Tomodachi Game exaggerates the situation, but the core idea is very real. When resources become limited and pressure rises, morality becomes flexible. The manga forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Trust is easy when nothing is at stake, but when there's something to lose, people reveal who they really are. And maybe that's why the story feels so unsettling, because deep down we all wonder, if we were put in that situation, would we stay loyal? Or would we justify betrayal as necessary? There are many death game or survival manga, but Tomodachi Game feels different because the battlefield is the mind. There's no superpower, no magic, no physical dominance, just psychological manipulation. And what makes it even more intense is that the reader is often manipulated too. You think you understand the plan, you think you know who is the traitor, until you realize you've been misled. One of the most impressive plot twists in Tomodachi Game isn't about a shocking death or a sudden betrayal. It's about perspective. There's a moment in the story where everything you thought you understood subtly shifts. No explosions, no dramatic reveal scene, just a quiet realization that you may have misunderstood the situation and the characters from the very beginning. What makes this twist so powerful is that it doesn't just surprise you, it makes you question your own judgment. You start thinking, wait, was that intentional? Did I overlook something obvious? Was this planned all along? And that's where the manga truly shines. Instead of relying on cheap shock value, it builds tension through psychological layering. It plants small details early on, and when the truth finally starts to take shape, it feels earned. That kind of twist doesn't just change the direction of the story, it changes the way you read it. And after that point, you stop trusting the narrative completely, which is exactly what a story about manipulation should do. Despite having an anime adaptation, the manga still feels underappreciated compared to other psychological thrillers. But it delivers strong plot twists, complex character dynamics, moral ambiguity, consistent tension. For fans of psychological warfare stories, this is a must-read. As the story unfolds, the narrative takes several unexpected turns. What begins as pure psychological warfare slowly becomes more physical. That shift might not appeal to everyone, but each arc remains faithful to the central themes of manipulation and trust. At its core, Tomodachi Game isn't about debt, it's about trust, and how fragile it really is. The scariest part, under enough pressure, anyone can betray. The question is, would you? If you were in the Tomodachi Game, would you stay loyal? Or would you manipulate everyone to win? Comment below. And if you enjoy psychological manga analysis like this, make sure to subscribe for more.